From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Slovenia's president has nominated UN envoy Francesca Albanese and doctors in Gaza for the Nobel Peace Prize, condemning Israel's genocide in Gaza. This and more are coming up in today's show, so stay tuned. Workers marched in cities across the U.S. on Monday, which was Labor Day. The rallies were part of the Workers Over Billionaires campaign. Protesters gathered in Boston, Chicago, New York, Baltimore, and other cities and towns. They demanded better wages and benefits. Many criticized the Trump administration's policies. In New York, hundreds gathered outside Trump Tower, chanting, "New York is a working town," as bands led the march. In Tallahassee, Florida, speakers called for fair pay. In Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson joined protesters. In Maryland, crowds gathered at McKeldin Plaza and Westminster, saying the rallies are a stand against billionaire control of the country. Unlike the rest of the world, which marks Labor Day on May 1st, the U.S. observes it on the first Monday of September. The holiday honors the American labor movement and the contributions of workers to the nation's progress. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the federal government will expand immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE, operations in major cities. She confirmed that more resources are headed to urban areas, which she claims are facing crime and violence. Noem told CBS News that ICE has already been active in Chicago and Illinois, but expansion is planned. She said cities like San Francisco, Boston, and Chicago should cooperate if they want safer streets. Noem added that using the National Guard is an option, but that would be President Donald Trump's call. Her comments came after Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an order rejecting federal enforcement tactics. The order bars Chicago police from helping with immigration raids. It also requires federal agents to wear body cameras, show names and badges, and avoid masks. Johnson warned against militarized enforcement, saying it could mean armed vehicles and soldiers on city streets. Analysts say the clash sets up a test between Washington and city governments. Slovenian President Nataša Pirc-Musar has nominated Francesca Albanese for the Nobel Peace Prize. Albanese is the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, who has been nominated for the prize by other individuals and organizations in recent months. She is an Italian legal scholar and human rights expert who, as UN envoy, has highlighted the plight of Palestinians and accused Israel of genocide in Gaza. This has drawn sharp criticism from Israel and resulted in U.S. sanctions against her recently. Pirc-Musar made the announcement of Albanese's nomination while opening the 20th Bled Strategic Forum on Monday in Slovenia. She also nominated doctors working in Gaza for the prize. In her speech, Pirc-Musar condemned what she called Israel's war on Gaza and accused Western leaders of hypocrisy on human rights. She warned that Europe risks losing credibility if it ignores Palestinian suffering while defending Ukraine. Slovenia has already imposed an arms embargo on Israel and sanctioned 2 of its ministers. The country has also accused Israel of committing genocide. At least 13 people, including 3 children, died of starvation in Gaza in the last 24 hours due to Israel's ongoing blockade of food and humanitarian aid. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza, this brings the hunger-related death toll since Israel's genocide in the region began to 361, with 130 children among them. Officials report 185 deaths in August alone, the highest monthly figure yet. 70 of those came after a UN-backed system declared Gaza a famine zone. More than 43,000 children under 5 now suffer from malnutrition. Another 55,000 pregnant and breastfeeding women are affected, with 2/3 of pregnant women now anemic. Israel has kept Gaza's borders closed since March 2nd, cutting off food supplies for the region's 2.4 million residents. The United Nations warns that famine is already gripping the north and will spread further south by the end of September. This week, the International Association of Genocide Scholars announced that Israel's conduct in Gaza over the past 22 months meets the legal definition of genocide under the 1948 United Nations Convention. Israeli soldiers killed at least 78 Palestinians in strikes across Gaza since Tuesday dawn, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. 42 were killed in Gaza City alone. Israeli drones hit civilians in Jabalia, killing 4. 9 were killed in Sheikh Radwan when homes were struck. 14 died in Tal al-Hawa after a building collapse. Israeli soldiers killed 3 people after their jets hit an aid point. 2 more died when the army shelled a tent in western Gaza. In Al-Daraj, civil defense pulled 11 bodies, including children, from the rubble of a home. Medics say 7 more children, among them a 16-month-old, remain trapped. Israeli soldiers also opened fire on civilians waiting for aid in central Gaza and Khan Yunis, killing at least 15. In southern Gaza, Israeli soldiers killed 4 more and wounded many in strikes and drone attacks. Israel has killed more than 64,000 Palestinians since October 2023. 1 million people are fleeing Gaza City, but there is no safe space left. The Israeli army confirmed it has mobilized 60,000 reservists with full tactical gear, preparing for an offensive to seize Gaza City. Qatar says Israel has not responded to a ceasefire proposal already accepted by Hamas. More than 200 media outlets from over 50 countries have joined hands to demand protection for Palestinian journalists and accountability for Israel. The campaign, coordinated by Reporters Without Borders and Avaz, accused the Israeli army of deliberately targeting reporters in Gaza. In a joint statement, the outlets warned, at the rate journalists are being killed in Gaza, there will soon be no one left to keep you informed. The groups also called for foreign press access to Gaza and emergency evacuations for local reporters seeking to leave. They urged the United Nations Security Council to act against what they described as Israeli crimes against journalists. Reporters Without Borders says in less than 2 years, 220 journalists have been killed in Gaza. The call highlights mounting pressure on the international community to end what media groups call the systematic impunity for Israel's actions. A group of 131 Israeli journalists has signed a petition calling for an end to Israel's targeting of Palestinian reporters in Gaza. They are urging an independent investigation into the deaths of journalists killed in the genocide. The petition condemned what it described as a systematic assault on press freedom. It cited the Committee to Protect Journalists figures that 168 reporters have been killed, while Palestinian Government Media Office put the toll at 247 since October 2023. The journalists accused Israel of blocking foreign media access by refusing entry to correspondence. They also criticized Israeli newsrooms for ignoring the humanitarian toll and said censorship has badly damaged press freedom. The statement demanded an immediate halt to attacks, accountability for deaths, and long-term peace based on equality and freedom. A flotilla with activists from 44 countries, including Greta Thunberg, has set sail from Barcelona, Spain, to break Gaza's blockade. Details after the break, so stay tuned. A flotilla carrying aid and activists to Gaza has set sail from Barcelona, Spain, after a one-day weather delay. The global Samud flotilla saw the first group of boats leave Monday evening, with more to follow from across the Mediterranean. Approximately 200 activists, politicians, and artists from 44 countries are part of the mission. High-profile figures include Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, Irish actor Liam Cunningham, Spanish actor Eduardo Fernandez, and former Barcelona mayor Adat Colau. More vessels will join from Italy and Tunisia, bringing the total to 60 ships and more than 500 people. Organizers hope to reach Gaza by mid-September. Fernandez said each ship is a cry for human dignity, while Thunberg called the Gaza blockade a form of betrayal by world leaders. They stressed the mission is peaceful, carrying humanitarian aid and a message that Palestine is not alone. President Donald Trump has attacked the trade relationship between the U.S. and India, calling it a totally one-sided disaster. Posting on his platform Truth Social, Trump said India sells large amounts of goods to the U.S. while buying very little in return. He accused India of imposing the world's highest tariffs, blocking American companies from its markets. Trump noted that his administration had already imposed steep tariffs on Indian imports, including a 50% levy rolled out last month, partly over India's purchase of Russian oil. He also criticized India for buying most of its energy and defense equipment from Moscow instead of the U.S. He claimed that India has now offered to cut tariffs, but said it was too late. Trump's comments came after the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in China, which ended Monday, where leaders pledged support for multilateral trade systems. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, has sued Texas over its newly drawn congressional maps. The lawsuit accuses the state of stripping black voters of political power through racial gerrymandering. The suit, which was filed with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, names Governor Greg Abbott and Secretary of State Jane Nelson. It argues that the maps violate the Constitution and Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Texas Republicans passed the maps on Saturday in a move expected to add 5 more Republican seats in Congress. Observers say the state is only 40% white, yet white voters control nearly 3/4 of the congressional seats. The League of United Latin American Citizens and other groups have also filed challenges. Republicans claim they are on solid legal ground. The battle could reach the U.S. Supreme Court as both sides brace for a major voting rights fight. Americans are more pessimistic than ever about their money and financial prospects. A new survey from LendingTree shows that only 38% of non-wealthy Americans think they will ever become wealthy. That figure has steadily dropped from 51% in 2019. Stubborn inflation and new tariffs are adding to fears that household budgets will remain under pressure. 8 in 10 people say building wealth is getting harder. Gen Z is still the most optimistic group. About 62% believe they will achieve wealth, though even that number is down from 69% last year. Most people now define wealth not as millions in the bank, but as living without financial worries, feeling secure, and being debt-free. Consumer confidence is also falling. The Conference Board Index slipped to 97.5 in August, while the University of Michigan Index dropped 6%. Economists warn these levels may signal a recession ahead. Rescue operations continue in eastern Afghanistan after a powerful 6.0 magnitude earthquake on Monday killed over 1,400 people and injured at least 3,000. Officials warn the death toll could rise as many people remain buried under rubble in remote villages in the provinces of Kunar and Nangarhar. Rescue efforts have been hampered by destroyed roads and landslides in Kunar. Many areas remain inaccessible, forcing families to dig through debris with their bare hands to retrieve the dead. Helicopters have been deployed to airlift survivors. So far, 35 flights have transported hundreds of injured to Nangarhar Regional Hospital. 8 teams are struggling to reach the worst-hit districts. The Afghan interim administration has pledged $1.4 million in aid and formed a relief committee. Food, shelter, and medical supplies are being rushed in as aftershocks continue to rattle the devastated region. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye says Africa could help feed the world if it invests in its youth and resources. Speaking at the Africa Food Systems Forum in the country's capital, Dakar, he said the continent has 65% of the world's arable land, a young population, and immense resources. Faye urged Africa to build food sovereignty through water management, innovation, local processing, and intra-African trade. He said the youth must be at the center of agricultural transformation. Rwandan President Paul Kagame echoed the call, saying Africa must stop depending on the rest of the world and start acting on its potential. The summit, which runs through September 5th, brings leaders and experts together to promote sustainable and inclusive food systems. Guatemala says it will start receiving unaccompanied minors deported from the United States. The move aims to prevent children from ending up in detention centers and to reunite them with families back home. The government said it will take full responsibility for returning children and teenagers after they complete legal procedures in the U.S. Officials stress the decision respects human rights and prioritizes welfare. The move follows U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's visit in June, when both countries signed a bilateral security agreement. Data from the Washington Office on Latin America shows that 18,350 Guatemalans were repatriated in the first half of 2025. That is down nearly half from the same period last year. Authorities say most returnees are longtime U.S. residents rather than recent border crossers. Several Guatemalan agencies will coordinate the new policy, including migration and social welfare offices. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. Please donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.